morning, everyone. I'm Nathan Shapura, Senior Political Advisor at the European People's Party. And on behalf of the EPP, welcome to this episode of EPP Family Talks. This morning, we have the honor to be speaking with Stella Kyriakides, former President of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, the Vice President of her party and our EPP member party, Democratic Rally of Cyprus, and for 1 year now, the European Commissioner for Health and Food Safety. Commissioner, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us this morning. As I mentioned, you are our only, or maybe I didn't mention, but you are our only repeat guest now in 2020. And that is, it is an honor to have you to speak with us, but maybe as we just were speaking before the interview started as well, it also speaks to the difficult year this has been in terms of health. And so I wonder, as we're entering now this darkest period of the calendar year, with what we hope to be some light at the end of the tunnel, you could give us an update on where we are, in particular on the issue of vaccines.
First of all, good morning to everyone. It's very good to see you again, Nathan, and I'm glad to be able to join our EPP family talk again. And I hope that everyone following this and their families and friends are keeping safe and well in what, as you have said, is continuing to be a very challenging year. Yes, we are beginning to see some light at the end of the tunnel with vaccines on the horizon. So I think that this is an important message that we need to send out, that we need to stay positive. I just wanted to update everyone that the Commission has so far concluded 6 contracts in our vaccine strategy. And together, our joint negotiations can potentially give us an access of up to 2 billion doses of future safe and effective vaccines for EU citizens and, of course, for citizens globally. We are also in the middle of negotiations with another 2 companies. I believe that trying to find always the positive, that I think this is quite an incredible achievement in the last 6 months, and it shows the strength of what we can do when we work together. This has been made possible by working together with all 27 member states under the vaccine strategy. It's a truly European solution to a common and global pandemic. It has enabled us to have a much stronger voice in the negotiations, because when you're negotiating with and on behalf of 27, you're clearly in a stronger position. But more than that, it ensures that vaccines will be available to all member states at the same time. This is what we believe a strong European health union needs to be about. Now, I know that, and I follow, and I know, and I hear that one of the big concerns of citizens is the safety. And although vaccines are the way out of this pandemic, it's not the vaccine itself that is going to bring the solution, but it's vaccination. And for this reason, I want to assure viewers that although speed is of essence, and of course it's a priority, safety is non-negotiable. And it is a fundamental requirement for any medicine, and in this case, any vaccine, to reach the EU markets. And in this sense, to assure everyone that no corners will be cut. The procedure, so that people have an understanding, is that all COVID-19 vaccines will go through an independent scientific assessment of the quality and the safety and the efficacy by the European Medicines Agency before the European Medicines Agency puts forward the proposal, and then the Commission takes forward that proposal to give its approval. So what the European Medicines Agency is looking at now is to see all the clinical data in order to issue a conditional marketing authorization depending on the robustness of the evidence. We are expecting the conclusion of the EMA process by the latest 29th December for the BioNTech Pfizer vaccine, and by the latest January 12th for the Moderna vaccine. Once authorized and produced, each vaccine will be accessible to all member states at the same time. So this is where we stand now with the vaccine strategy. And I'm sure we will have the opportunity to come back to this. But I want to say that although vaccines are the way out of this unprecedented global pandemic, it was not going to end what we need to be doing as citizens the next day. We need to continue to take measures to control and mitigate the spread of COVID-19 over the next few months. We must all understand that by the time we have the rollout and the production and the numbers needed to reach the European citizens and global citizens, we need to continue to take measures to stop the spread of this virus. And this is a particularly important message I want to send out now. When we're nearing the end of the year, it's usually a time that we all associate with festivities. This is a very precarious time, and we need to understand that this year, as everything else in 2020, will be different. This is not so much about celebration, but about saving lives. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that update. I love that you have on your Twitter profile the phrase "focus on the positive," and what you've just laid out is not only positive, but I think extraordinarily good news. And you focused on messages of safety first and of not cutting any corners, as well as the realism that this will not just be, sort of an immediate fix-all. Even once the vaccine is rolled out, it will still take some months of patience and responsibility. You also mentioned in that update the European Health Union, the EU Health Union, and this is something you've been working really hard on, not just within Europe, but around the world, not just with scientists, but with civil society, with governments, to address not just this pandemic, but future pandemics by putting new structures in place. So could you explain for us what exactly this health union is all about?
Well, since the beginning of this pandemic, I have always said, and I've said it publicly, that we need more Europe in the area of public health. And I have also been listening to citizens, speaking with stakeholders through our meetings, and justifiably, especially in the first few weeks, they were saying, where is the EU? We need more EU. Where is the support that we need in the area of health? So citizens have been loud and clear, and they needed what they expected from us, especially in the area of cross-border health threats. And this year, we witnessed the strength of solidarity. We did witness in the first few weeks the difficulties where member states felt that they could contain a virus by closing their own borders, but this became abundantly clear that you cannot contain a virus that way. So we have seen the strength of solidarity, the strength of working together. The vaccine strategy is a prime example of this. So we have put forward a proposal for a European health union. President von der Leyen had put this as a priority in her State of the Union speech. And we want to build a health union that is going to be more resilient and more able to truly protect the health of citizens and draw on the lessons we are learning from this pandemic. So I'll just very briefly say that we have put forward proposals to strengthen our two agencies, the European Medicines Agency and the ECDC, the European Centre for Disease Prevention and Control. Many citizens in the last few months have seen the importance of these two agencies, ECDC in the guidance, in the recommendations, in the updates on the epidemiology with member states. And now everybody's eyes are on the European Medicines Agency in terms of the assessment of the vaccines. So we need to strengthen these agencies so that they don't only they're not only able to react to the everyday issues, but also to be able to detect emerging diseases so we can be proactive. We need to be sure that we know where we have medicines, where we can predict medicine shortages and medical devices, So we're not faced with the situation we were faced at the beginning of the year. We should never have the situation when we don't know in the member states what the capacities are in hospitals, in ICUs, before a crisis hits. And this is a real step change for the EU's capacity to make a difference in the area of health. So this is all within the treaties, competence, a big discussion. We often hear health is a member state's competence, and yes, it is. And this is well within the treaty. But for myself, it's time we stop using this word competence as taboo and finally move forward and deliver what European citizens expect us to within the treaty for their health.
And you've just focused on several different key issues, one of them being medicine. My understanding is that one of the pillars or one of the elements of this health union will be developing greater European capacity on medicines, for example, producing and procuring medicines, key medicines in case of shortage, in case of future pandemics. Is the pharmaceutical strategy, which has also been put forward, is this part of the health union, and is this the pillar which addresses this issue of medicine?
The European Health Union is built up on a number of pillars, and strengthening the agencies, building up a new emergency preparedness authority, HERA, the pharmaceutical strategy, Europe's beating cancer plan, are all pillars to build up towards this stronger European Health Union. And we presented the pharmaceutical strategy because I would say this, that President von der Leyen had mandated this in my letter from before the pandemic. And this was highlighted as one of the huge challenges that we face as a European Union. The access to affordable medicines, the medicine shortages that we saw in many countries. And all this, of course, has been even more, become more apparent with COVID-19. So we have put forward the strategy that over the next few years has a number of actions that will improve patients' access to affordable medicines, to encourage innovation. But innovation only makes sense if patients have access to innovative medicines. In order to encourage the pharmaceutical industry to really innovate and to develop within Europe, to build strategic autonomy. We need to diversify our supply chains so we don't meet a situation like we did at the beginning of the year when we saw that because of COVID, in countries we were totally dependent on factories shut down, and then we didn't have access to basic medicines. And really promote EU influence and competitiveness at a global level. We have a very strong pharmaceutical industry, but we can do more. And ultimately, we want Europe to be a front runner as a place where medicines are developed and manufactured in an affordable way, but having the patient always at the center of this work. So I have had extensive dialogues with stakeholders, with citizens, and this, in a sense, also feeds into Europe's beating cancer plan, because you cannot be talking about treatment in cancer if you don't ensure that patients have, for example, safe and affordable access to medicines. So these are all pillars that are really, we're building up slowly towards a stronger European Health Union.
I appreciate so much, even on a personal level, that phrase you've just focused on, the patient-centered care, because so often I think it is easy for the patient somehow to be lost amid a discussion of diseases, let's say, and different treatments and things. All these pillars are so important. The EPP actually focused, as you know, so much on fighting cancer in our campaign in 2019 as part of President von der Leyen's political guidelines to start her mandate. So thanks so much for all of this amazing work that you're doing. I want to ask you, if I could, about a different element of health. And this is something we talked about in May when you spoke with us also in the EPP Family Talks, and that is the area of mental health. I think, at least for me, maybe for many of us, it's easier for us to think of, let's say, COVID-19 or other such things as diseases which can be treated with medicine or vaccinated against, and therefore problem solved. Is mental health and all of the mental health issues we've seen arise during this pandemic, are they the same kinds of things, so that once we get vaccinated, once society opens up again, these issues will disappear, or is it a different sort of an animal? I mean, will these issues take longer to deal with? How should we be thinking about mental health concerns right now?
First of all, Nathan, thank you for mentioning the patient-centered approach. I've been a patient advocate as long as I can remember, because I'm a cancer patient, so I know the importance of patients, and I have always appreciated the fact that EPP has had this patient-centered approach and really pushed forward for the Europe's Beating Cancer plan. So for myself, it really is it's a privilege to be in a position now when I can actually move forward with what I have really tried to spend a lot of many years of my life devoted to. So mental health, this is a huge challenge, and as a clinical psychologist, I have become increasingly concerned about the issues of COVID-19 and mental health. Seeing what we were faced with in the first lockdown, which was challenging for anyone, let alone families and individuals faced with mental health problems. Um, I don't. I don't believe that we have seen the full extent of the mental health repercussions. We have built up a platform to allow the exchange of information of this. I have had meetings with families, caring for those with mental disorders, and I'm hopeful that vaccines and vaccinations will allow us to slowly return to a more normal way of life. But I think that mental health issues will be something that we need to be focusing on for quite a while in the future. And that is also mental health issues faced by the frontline workers. I have spoken to doctors, I've spoken to nurses, to social workers. It's not only dealing with the COVID, it's also the fact that they weren't able to deliver to their other patients throughout this pandemic the way they've been trained. It's part of their DNA to do. And I'm very concerned about the effects this has on the younger generation, and also, of course, the huge socioeconomic effects of COVID-19 on so many people. This pandemic is a reminder in many ways of many issues, and one of them is that we can't really distinguish physical and mental health. We as individuals, as people, are one, and we need to look after both aspects of our health, our mental health and well-being, and our physical health and well-being. So in the EU for Health program, the new standalone EU for Health program, I will be focusing a lot more strongly on mental health. This is an area that I fully intend to make a priority and move forward on.
I think it's clear that you are really attending to this very serious issue, and also have a lot of empathy, to use a great Greek word, for people suffering from these, as well as the more obvious physical maladies. And I think empathy probably is one of the key things we're gonna need in big doses still in the coming months or years. If I could, as we finish this interview, this EPP Family Talks interview, I'd like to turn now back to what we started with, something positive, and that is, and something more personal as well, and that is to just ask you now, with holidays coming up, and of course there are a lot of restrictions which all of us have to deal with, but despite that, and within the guidelines of what is allowed, are there particular traditions that you're especially looking forward to now?
Sorry, I was muted. I would say that coming towards the end of the year, I keep my focus on being able to be at home, be with some members of family in a very small circle, because I think it's important we understand that this Christmas and this end of the year will be very different. But then I look back and I think that nothing in 2020 has been the same. We haven't celebrated birthdays or anniversaries or holidays in the same way. And for myself, this Christmas and end of the year is about solidarity. It's about adhering to the measures and about saving lives. Because if we manage to show this level of solidarity, now that we have the vaccine possibly around the corner, then we'll be able to celebrate hopefully many, many Christmases with all our loved ones together without endangering anyone. And this is what I would ask everyone to do. This is a different Christmas, a different end of the year. But let's look forward to a new year, which we will have to follow the measures for a number of months until we make sure that the vaccine covers significant numbers of the population. But there is now some light at the end of this tunnel, so it's a matter of being patient and going on. And for myself, just being back home and enjoying some traditional Cypriot goodies is more than enough.
Well, in May, you mentioned that I think particular favorites of yours are white wine and chocolate, so hopefully you have them in abundance during this Christmas season. Ms. Stella Kyriakides, Commissioner for Health and Food Safety, thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us this morning on behalf of the EPP family. Thanks so much for the amazing work that you are doing.
Thank you so much, and I wish everyone to stay safe, to think positive, and just to follow the guidelines that we know are out there. I say that they're not so difficult if we just follow the close contacts that we need to keep our distance, wash our hands, and we will get through this, because we will get through this. It just takes a little bit more patience and to protect each other and those around us.
Thank you again, and stay safe and healthy to you and your team and your family as well. To all of our viewers, thanks for tuning in. Please join us again on Thursday when we'll have a special at-home edition of EPP Family Talks with member of the European Parliament, David Lega. Have a great day.
Thank you.